2 years ago, I found myself on an eerie night shift at a quiet 7-Eleven on a desolate road. The previous shift had been left unattended, forcing me to take over the late-night responsibilities. The convenience store, situated in a rural and scarcely populated area, usually saw a trickle of customers during these hours. Little did I know that this night would mark the beginning of a chilling encounter that would forever haunt my memories. As the clock struck 10 p.m., I settled into the dimly lit store. It wasn't long before an unexpected visitor walked in, a young man in his mid-20s. Immediately, something felt off about him. He emitted strange and unsettling noises, almost resembling loud yells, as he wandered the aisles. My empathy kicked in, reminding me of my brother with a mental disability. I assumed the same for this young man. He approached the counter, devoid of any purchases. His head was tilted towards me, but his eyes fixated on the ceiling, creating an unnerving disconnect. I felt an unsettling shiver down my spine as his behavior grew more bizarre. Attempting to engage him in conversation, I struggled to connect as he responded only with more unintelligible noises. The man stood there, staring at the ceiling and producing eerie sounds that seemed to echo in the quiet store. My unease grew as I looked outside for signs of anyone accompanying him, only to find no trace of another person. My discomfort escalated as his unnerving gaze persisted. In a desperate attempt to end the awkward situation, I handed him a bag of chips and urged him to leave. I searched for a number to call for assistance, fearing for his well-being. Suddenly, without warning, he shifted his gaze from the ceiling and left the store. I was relieved, though the unsettling feeling lingered. Time passed, and the eerie encounter seemed to fade into the background. However, that eerie night had left its mark on me. Roughly an hour later, the store phone rang, causing my heart to race. As I answered, the cacophony of strange noises returned. It was him, the same man. Panic surged through me. Was this a prank? Or something more sinister? I abruptly ended the call, my paranoia intensifying as I scanned my surroundings, haunted by the feeling of being watched. The long night finally drew to an end as my relief arrived for the next shift. I rushed home, eager to escape the chilling memories of the past hours. But my solace was short-lived as my phone rang almost immediately upon stepping through the door. The clock read 4 a.m., an unusual hour for a call. Dread gnawed at me as I answered, only to hear those same unnerving noises once again. In the weeks that followed, I attempted to bury the disturbing encounters, focusing on my daily routine. However, a new wave of terror washed over me when I ventured into my basement after a long hiatus. Papers were strewn across the floor, and a feeling of unease settled in. The walls bore a chilling message, 7-Eleven, along with my store and home addresses, scrawled in Sharpie. My blood ran cold as I discovered various kitchen knives and a large pocket knife nestled in the closet. Realization struck me, the man I had encountered wasn't just a transient oddity. He had been living in my basement, a proximity that sent shivers down my spine. Gratitude washed over me for his sudden departure, yet a deep unease lingered. I found myself trapped in a web of anxiety. The nights grew darker and more ominous, each sound morphing into potential footsteps of a lurking presence. Sleep eluded me as I stayed vigilant, fearing that any creak or whisper could be his return. Amid my haunting dread, another tale unfolded. As part of the K-9 unit, I was no stranger to the night's mysteries. One fateful night, I was partnered with Sammy, a 2-year-old German Shepherd. Our patrol took us along a road flanked by crops, their shadows dancing in the moonlight. A white van nestled in the crops caught my attention, its open doors hinting at an unsettling presence. I flashed my lights in an attempt to coax out the occupants, but silence hung in the air. I parked and took Sammy with me to investigate further. Her agitation was palpable as we neared the van, her leash strained to its limits. The stench that assaulted me as I opened the van's trunk was nearly overwhelming. 7 body bags greeted me, each with feet protruding from their confines. Disbelief and horror gripped me as I realized the magnitude of the situation. Panic set in as I radioed for backup, the eerie silence of the surroundings amplifying my anxiety. Sammy's barking pierced the night, her agitation intensifying as she focused on the trunk. Suddenly, her grip on the leash broke, and she dashed into the crops. My heart raced as I followed her barks, the very air around me pulsating with an eerie energy. In the midst of the crop fields, I found myself surrounded by a symphony of strange noises. A primal fear gripped me as I realized I was not alone. Movement surrounded me, each rustle of the crops a harbinger of impending doom. Panic surged as unseen figures seemed to close in from all directions. Suffocating pressure gripped my throat as unseen arms coiled around me. The world blurred as I fought for breath, terror threatening to consume me. It was in that moment of desperation that Sammy's fierce bark reverberated through the night. Her bite brought release, and I staggered away from my assailant, my gun in hand. Grim reality stared me in the face as I faced the man who had sought to take my life. In a moment of pure instinct and self-preservation, I pulled the trigger, ending his life. Sammy's presence, her loyalty and ferocity, had saved me from an untimely demise. The stillness of the night was shattered by the gunshot, and a rush of adrenaline coursed through my veins. The aftermath was a haze of confusion and guilt. Backup arrived too late to apprehend the van's occupants. Regret weighed heavily on me as I realized I had failed to document crucial information in my panicked state. I questioned my actions, grappling with the ethical complexity of taking a life. Years have passed, but the haunting memories refuse to fade. The night shifts have taken on a more sinister meaning, and each creak, rustle, or unfamiliar noise transports me back to those nights of terror. I learned that darkness can hide unimaginable horrors, and sometimes survival is the only priority. The night was cloaked in an eerie silence as I embarked on yet another night shift at my local Wall Bombs, the once bustling 24-hour store now draped in shadows. My responsibilities ranged from serving the occasional late-night customer to restocking the shelves. However, this night would shatter the mundanely and introduce me to an unsettling stranger who would forever leave a mark on my memory. The deserted store was my domain as I navigated the dimly lit aisles. With less than a handful of customers expected during my shift, the solitude was both a blessing and a curse. My task at hand was stocking the cereal aisle, a mundane chore that brought little excitement. In the midst of arranging boxes, an odd sound echoed from the adjacent aisle, interrupting the eerie silence. A subtle thud followed by the clattering of merchandise grabbed my attention, making me tense. The door sliding open was typically a jarring noise, so when I heard it, my heart raced as I realized someone might be in the store. Glancing toward my left, I was met with a man's blank stare, sending chills down my spine. His appearance was peculiar, not ugly but offbeat, reminiscent of a caricature. Summoning my customer service facade, I greeted him and inquired about his needs. His request for directions to the eggs seemed innocuous enough. Yet, his odd facial structure and demeanor unsettled me. His upper lip protruded oddly, almost like a cartoon character. There was something unnerving about the way he stared, seemingly trying to pierce through my thoughts. After a hurried interaction, I returned to my task, aiming to expedite my responsibilities. As I maneuvered the U-boat cart toward the storage room, I was abruptly confronted by the same man. His intrusion into my personal space was discomforting, and the conversation shifted from casual to invasive. His questions delved into my personal life, probing my age, education, and relationships. My gut twisted as his queries grew increasingly inappropriate, crossing into my romantic preferences. The line between concern and dread blurred as he questioned my experiences, casting an eerie shadow over the encounter. I briskly retreated, my heart pounding, and sought refuge in the store's storage room, hoping to escape his unnerving presence. With my heart racing, I strategized to wait for his departure near the register. Yet, minutes stretched into what felt like hours, and he never arrived to complete his purchase. My anxiety escalated as the minutes ticked by, and a creeping sensation settled in. Had he slipped away with stolen goods, or was he still lurking somewhere in the store? Determined to confront the situation head-on, I headed for the employee bathroom, a sense of urgency surging through me. However, my hope was shattered as I heard the bathroom door creak open moments after I entered. Panic gripped me as I realized I was not alone. Staring at the floor, I braced myself for what was to come. As I looked up, a haunting sight awaited me, and I peering through the narrow crack of the stall door. Dread consumed me as I struggled to contain my fear. The encounter felt like a sinister game of cat and mouse, each moment intensifying my terror. Trapped in that suffocating space, I knew I had to act swiftly. Suppressing my panic, I reached for the box cutter concealed in my pocket. Gritting my teeth, I slid it through the door's crack, forcing the stranger to withdraw his gaze. I seized the moment, thrusting the stall door open and sprinting out of the bathroom. With adrenaline coursing through my veins, I fled the store, seeking refuge from the intruder's unsettling presence. Once outside, I frantically contacted my boss, recounting the ordeal with tremors in my voice. He urged me to call the police, a testament to the gravity of the situation. The police arrived, but the stranger had vanished, leaving behind only the chilling echo of his presence. My nights at Wall Bombs were forever tainted by the unsettling encounter. Even after time had passed, I couldn't shake the sensation of being watched or the anxiety that accompanied the night shift. My tale serves as a reminder that darkness can harbor unspeakable horrors, lurking within the ordinary corners of our lives. The night shift, once mundane, became a harrowing battleground where my instincts guided me toward survival. The memory of that night still haunts me, a testament to the inexplicable terrors that can unfold when the clock strikes midnight. The midnight shift at the remote gas station by the desolate highway had always been monotonous and solitary. I took on this lonesome responsibility, working tirelessly from 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. to settle my college loans. The highway itself was a quiet stretch of road, with only the occasional traveler stopping by for gas or a brief respite. However, on a cold December night, the quietude of my mundane routine was shattered by a haunting encounter that would forever linger in my memories. As the clock ticked away in a dimly lit gas station, I found solace in my newspaper and phone games, seeking to fend off the loneliness and boredom of the graveyard shift. The distant headlights of a vehicle caught my attention as it veered off the highway into the parking lot. A red pickup truck came to a halt, and its lone occupant stepped out. As I observed him through the window, he seemed to be having trouble with the gas pump. Returning to my newspaper, I assumed that the man was simply having payment issues. However, a sense of unease crept over me when I looked up to see him still standing by the gas pump, unmoving. Ignoring my discomfort, I continued reading until I felt a chill run down my spine. The man, who had been standing with his back to me, turned his head unnaturally, locking his gaze onto mine. My heart raced as I realized that he was staring at me. Fear gnawed at me as I attempted to brush off his unsettling gaze by returning to my newspaper. The feeling of his eyes fixed on me persisted, making it increasingly difficult to concentrate on the printed words. An icy shiver traversed my spine as his towering figure began moving, slowly making his way toward the front of the store. Panic set in, and I decided to investigate further. Approaching the front door, my dread deepened as the man loomed closer, his face shrouded in darkness. Every instinct in me screamed to lock the door and close shop. My trembling hand managed to flip the open sign to closed, a desperate bid to protect myself from the enigmatic stranger's gaze. I retreated to the safety of the counter, my mind racing with thoughts of escape. With my heart pounding, I sought refuge behind the counter, my body trembling with anxiety. Time seemed to stretch as I huddled in the dimly lit store, frantically texting friends in search of someone to share my unsettling experience with. Minutes felt like an eternity, my desperation for someone to talk to growing with each passing second. The situation was rapidly escalating beyond my control, leaving me isolated and petrified. Summoning the last ounce of courage, I dialed the emergency line, my voice quivering as I recounted the bizarre situation. The operator's skepticism only fueled my determination to secure help. The thuds on the door intensified, transforming from mere knocks to aggressive attempts to breach the entrance. Terror gripped me as I realized that the stranger was actively attempting to force his way in. After what felt like an eternity, the relentless pounding finally ceased. The sound of an engine revving and tires screeching marked the stranger's departure. My trembling hands grabbed the phone as I peered outside to ensure he was truly gone. The sight of his red pickup truck disappearing into the night brought a rush of relief. However, the terror of the encounter still lingered, haunting my thoughts. A sense of vulnerability gripped me as I awaited the arrival of the patrol cop and state trooper, their presence indicating the severity of the situation. I recounted the mysterious man's appearance, explaining that his face had remained shrouded in darkness, making any detailed description impossible. Despite their best efforts, the authorities were left with limited information to pursue. In the aftermath of the harrowing night, the gas station became a haunting reminder of that eerie encounter. The isolation and vulnerability I felt during that shift stayed with me, altering my perspective on safety and the unknown. The memory of the mysterious man's dark gaze and his relentless pursuit of entry remains etched in my memory, forever reminding me of the chilling terrors that can unfold in the depths of the night.